So today we're going to be talking about the production of urine and also the pH of the blood and what alkalosis and acidosis are. So starting with the kidney, kidneys are two bean-shaped organs in the body that cleanse the blood from any toxins or waste which is produced in the form of urine. The kidney removes any sort of medicine or any waste harmful material through the production of urine. Kidneys also maintain a correct volume of the water and blood pH in the body. Each kidney has millions of tiny units called the nephrons. These nephrons are partly located in the cortex, as seen here, and partly located in the medulla. Nephrons generally look like this. They have an afferent artery, the efferent artery, they have glomerulus. Glomerulus filtration happens here. You have renal tubule, and you have your collecting duct, which is where urine is collected and produced at the end. Nephrons are responsible for the actual process of filtration and purification of the blood. Nephrons contain two structures, as we said, glomerulus and renal tubule. And the glomerulus here has a semi-permeable membrane that lets certain ions to move through and be processed in order to make it to the urine production. And there are two arterioles that supply the glomerulus with the blood and also gets rid of the blood. So you have afferent that takes the blood into the glomerulus capsule, and through this semi-permeable membrane you have the exchange of ions moving in, and the blood that is here filtered will move out back to the blood to the body through the efferent arteriole. The renal tubule right here are basically capillaries that process the filtrate and reabsorption back into the blood. So everything that has been reabsorbed in terms of ions, any nutrients such as glucose, will move back into the blood, and this is called the tubular reabsorption process. Once all of these compounds have been reabsorbed, the unwanted material will then move its way into the collecting duct and be present in the form of urine outside the body. Sometimes when the body gets really dehydrated, it produces hormones such as ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone. And these together will help the retention of water and reabsorption of water into the blood. And as a result will cause a darker urine and more concentrated urine being produced here. So when the afferent arteriole right here is decreasing in radius, the pressure in the glomerulus will decrease, which in turn decreases the amount of the urine being produced. This is just because there's a less amount of blood entering this area and being filtered in order to make the urine. As opposite of this, the efferent arteriole, when it's decreased in the radius, the glomerulus pressure will and the filtration rate will increase. This is just because less blood is taken out from the glomerulus, so it acts like a dam and increases the filtration rate and pressure, and thus the urine production. The water bottle on the red dye represents the heart and blood respectively. The connecting tube carries the blood to the small bottle, which represents a kidney. Inside are cotton balls acting as renal tubule for reabsorption of nutrients. Tea bag is placed under the cotton balls to show the color change, meaning the filtration has occurred and blood plasma has been removed, resulting in yellow urine production, which can be seen collecting in the glass. So now we're going to be talking about the pH levels and how they're related to acidosis and alkalosis. So to start with, what is a pH? Basically, pH is used to describe the concentration of hydrogen ions in the body fluid. So as the hydrogen ion concentration increases, your pH level tends to decrease, and the vice versa is true. So as the concentration of these hydrogen ions decrease, you have a higher pH levels. So what that means, the stronger the acid, the more dissociation of hydrogen ions you actually get in the body fluid, and that decreases as you move to the right side, and as a result you get a weak acid. The neutral is 7, and then what is a base? Basically, base is the hydroxide ion that actually binds to hydrogen. So the stronger this bond, the stronger the base. So another point is that the body fluids have a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. One of the major role of body organs is actually to regulate constant internal body pH. There's something called homeostasis. Basically what it is a process of regulating the internal conditions so that it remains stable and relatively constant. The pH of the body is regulated by the chemical and physiological buffering system in the body by controlling these pH levels. So let's talk about what buffer is. So buffers, technically what they do is that they resist changes in pH. So let's talk about, for example, running. When you start running, you're going to produce some sort of an acid. It's called lactic acid. What lactic acid does is that it will basically tend to decrease the pH because it is, of course, an acid. And in turn, what it means is it will increase this hydrogen concentration in the body. So what this buffer system is trying to do is do the opposite action, which is trying to increase your pH in order to level it off and get that constant internal body pH that is required for your organs to function. So renal system is being one of the this physiological buffering system. It tend to be slower. It takes between hours to days. This is because it does actually control a bigger portion of pH regulation. For example, if there's just too much, so if there's too much acid in the body, the renal system, what it would do, would excrete more hydrogen ions in the urine. So if there are more carbon dioxide in the blood, breathing also becomes, faster to get rid of that excess carbon dioxide, since carbon dioxide does have an effect on the pH level. So there is this very important formula that shows that water plus carbon dioxide would result in a carbonic acid, which is written as H2CO3, and then as a result you will get hydrogen ions that dissociate and bicarbonate. So basically what happens is that the bicarbonate is created as the result of the interaction between carbon dioxide and water that make carbonic acid, that make dissociate into hydrogen ion, and of course bicarbonate. So if you have a reduction, so you have less gas exchange happening, you have increase. So you have an increase of carbon dioxide that will result in a production and lowering of the pH. So we said that if the pH lowers, you have higher concentration of these hydrogen ions. And that is because the amount of carbon dioxide in your body increases. And blood becomes, as a result, more acidic. The disruption of this acid-base balance happens when the body's pH tend to be above or below the normal standards. So in a body pH, so when the body pH falls below, so below the pH, goes below the normal, or below basically actually is 7.35, then you have a condition called acidosis. However, if it goes, the pH falls, it goes above 7.45, then you have a state called alkalosis, right? So respiratory alkalosis and acidosis occur when the levels of the CO2 in the blood is altered. So if this is increased, or if this is decreased, the CO2 or carbon dioxide, of course, contributes to the formation of carbonic acid, and that happens when water and carbon dioxide are mixed. Renal compensation is the body's primary method for action. So the partial pressure is represented by P. So if you want to see the partial pressure of carbon dioxide represented as PCO2. Technically what happens is that the partial pressure of carbon dioxide tend to increase and the pH level tend to decrease, which means that there is more hydrogen concentration in the fluid. And as a result, the bicarbonate, which is the HCO3 minus, tends to decrease because the solution will become more acidic and less basic. And if the HCO3 or bicarbonate levels increase, it will mean that it's more basic. But in this case, we have more acidic solution.